Alright, so today we're going to look at quadratic equations and formula. So the first thing we're going to look at is finding the different parts of the quadratic equation parabola. So we're going to use the function f of x equals x squared minus 6x minus 16. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the a, b, and c for this equation. A is the coefficient in front of the first term, B is the coefficient in front of the second term, and C is the constant on the end. So in this case, our A is 1, our B is negative 6, and our C is negative 16. We're going to find the axis of symmetry first, and this is the vertical line that cuts our parabola in half. It'll be going through the vertex. And the way we're going to find that is using the formula x equals negative b over 2a. And so our b is negative 6 and our a value is 1. So plugging those in, we have negative 6 over 2 times 1. So we have negative 6 over 2, or negative 3, or 3. So our axis of symmetry is the vertical line of x equals 3. And looking at the graph here, this is our parabola of our function. And putting in our vertical line, we can see our vertical line here going through our vertex, cutting our parabola in half equally. Now let's find the coordinates of our vertex here. So to do that, our x-coordinate is 3, and we're going to plug that in for our x values to get our y-coordinate. So f of 3 equals 3 squared minus 6 times 3 minus 16. So 9 minus 18 minus 16 equals negative 25. So our y-coordinate of our vertex is negative 25. So our vertex is at 3, negative 25. And going here, we have our coordinate 3, negative 25. So now we want to find where our graph is crossing the y-axis. So to do that, our y-coordinate, you see the x-coordinate of our y-intercept is 0. We're crossing at the y-axis. So we're going to solve when x equals 0. So using the same formula, but this time with 0 in. So f of 0 equals negative 16. So our y-intercept is at 0, negative 16. And looking at our graph, that's where we're at. Alright, so now if we want to find the reflection, we want to know what's on equal side. So here we're going from our x value, our x-coordinate is 0, and our line of symmetry is at x equals 3, so the reflection is going to be 3 on the other side. So 3 plus 3 is 6, so our reflection point is going to be 6, negative 16. And now using those points, if we wanted to, using the y-intercept, the reflection of the y-intercept, and the vertex, we can easily graph our function. We can just connect those dots and we have our parabola graphed. The next thing we're going to look at is maximum and minimum. A good rule of thumb is if your parabola opens upwards, like this one here, you have a minimum value, and if your parabola opens downward, you have a maximum value. And for a parabola, your max and min, if you're opening upward, your minimum value is your vertex, And if you're opening downward, your maximum value is also your vertex. So just to restate that, as far as max or min, if it opens upward, your vertex is your min. If it opens down, your vertex is your maximum value. So looking back at our original function, if we're looking at our domain is all of your x values. We can plug any x value in, so for this one, our domain is all real numbers. Our range is going to be our y values. So looking at this one, our y values are going to start at -25 and then go up. So our range is going to be all y values greater than or equal to -25. Alright, so now we're going to look at solving some quadratics. So we're going to look at solving by factoring. So looking at the function g squared plus 6g minus 16 equals 0. So we want two numbers that when we multiply them together we get -16. Those same two numbers when we add them together need to give us +6. So in this case we have 8 and -2. 8 times -2 gives us -16. 8 minus 2 gives us +6. We're going to set each of these parentheses equal to 0. And so we get g equals -8 and g equals 2. So these are the two solutions for our equation. Now we're going to look at completing the square. So we're going to look at p squared minus 3p minus 88 equals 0. So the first thing we're going to do is move this 88 over. So now we need to find this value here that's going to complete our square, and it's going to be b over 2, so our middle term over 2. So in that case, it is going to be -3 over 2 squared. So when we complete the square, we're going to have p minus 3 over 2 squared equals 88. Since we added this to this side, we need to do the same thing over here. So we have p minus 3 over 2 squared equals 88. Distributing our square, we have 9 over 4. So p minus 3 over 2 squared equals, so combining these two, we get 361 over 4. Now we're going to solve for p, so to undo the square, we're going to square root both sides. So we have p minus 3 over 2 equals the square root of 361 is 19 over 2. That is going to be a plus or minus, because when we square root, we get both. And then we're going to add 3 over 2 to both sides. So our P equals 3 over 2 plus or minus 19 over 2. And so So 3 plus 19 is 22 over 2, or P equals 11. And negative 8. The last example that we're going to do is a quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, where you need to know your a coefficient, b coefficient, and c coefficient. So we can look at p squared minus 3p minus 88 equals 0. So our a equals 1, b equals negative 3, and c equals negative 88. So negative 3 plus or minus negative 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 88 over 2 times 1. So now just solving it out, negative times negative 3 is positive 3. We have 9. 4 times negative 88 is negative 352, so minus negative 352 over 2. So 9 minus negative 352 is the square root of 361 over 2. Square root of 361 is 19, so we have 3 plus or minus 19 over 2. So we're getting the same thing that we had on the last slide. So 3 plus 19 over 2 equals 11, and 3 minus 19 over 2 equals negative 8. I hope that helps.